He was 15 months old. He remembers none of it. Not the green light, not his father falling in the doorway, not his mother standing over his crib, arms spread, refusing to move. Not the moment that changed the entire wizarding world and set every event of the next 17 years into motion. He has no conscious memory of Godric's Hollow. He has only a flash, a woman's scream, a burst of green light that surfaces unbidden, that shows up in nightmares and moments of extreme stress, that has been with him his entire life without him ever understanding what it was. And yet, that night controls everything Harry Potter does across 8 films, not because he can access it, because he cannot. Because the thing that shaped him most completely is the one thing he will spend his entire life trying to recover, understand, and ultimately walk back toward. The night his parents died is not Harry's past, it is his operating system. And this is the article about how it runs everything. The wound that has no memory, there is a particular kind of damage that comes not from remembering trauma, but from carrying it without being able to name it. Children who lose parents before they can form memories do not grieve the way people grieve a specific remembered loss. They grieve an absence, a shape in the world where something should be that isn't. They feel the gap without always being able to explain what the gap is. The gap of Harry grows up knowing his parents are dead. He knows it, the way he knows he has dark hair and bad eyesight, as a fact about himself, not a wound he can locate. The Dursleys never spoke of James and Lily with warmth. They gave him no photographs, no stories, no framework for understanding who he had lost. He grew up knowing he was an orphan, without knowing what that truly meant, without any structure for the grief the knowledge deserved. So the wound sits below language, below conscious reach. It shapes his behavior in ways he cannot analyze because the source is not available to him. Why does Harry form bonds so quickly and hold them so ferociously? Why does losing someone activate something in him that goes beyond ordinary grief? Why does the thought of people dying for him, because of him, produce a specific, almost physical anguish that no amount of rational reassurance can touch? Because on the night he cannot remember, 2 people died for him, and somewhere beneath every thought he has ever consciously formed, he has been living in the shadow of that fact. The Mirror of Erised and the first confrontation. The Mirror of Erised appears in the first film and shows Harry exactly what he needs most. Not power, not fame, not even safety. He sees his family. He sees himself surrounded by people who look like him, who share his eyes and his hair and his face, people who connect him to a past he has never been allowed to access. He sees his parents standing behind him with their hands on his shoulders. He goes back, night after night. He cannot stop. Dumbledore has to physically intervene to pull him away, warning him that men have wasted away before the mirror, never knowing whether what they saw was real or reachable, unable to leave. This is the first time the films show the memory working on Harry in visible, uncontrollable form. He is 11 years old. He has been a wizard for less than a year. He is in a castle full of extraordinary things and entirely new experiences. And what the deepest mirror in the world reflects back at him is, you want your parents. Not in an abstract philosophical sense. With the specific, desperate hunger of someone who has spent their entire childhood without the most basic thing children need, the knowledge that they are loved unconditionally by the people responsible for them. Dumbledore moves the mirror, but he cannot move what the mirror revealed. That image, Harry standing in the reflection, surrounded by the family he lost on a night he cannot remember, is the clearest picture the films ever give us of what is really driving him. The Patronus and what it's made of. In Prisoner of Azkaban, Harry learns to cast a Patronus. A Patronus requires the caster to hold a specific, powerful, happy memory, to locate the brightest feeling they have ever known and concentrate every ounce of their will on it until it becomes a shield of pure light, strong enough to repel creatures that feed on despair. Harry struggles at first.
Not because he is weak. Lupin tells him directly that he is the youngest person he has ever attempted to teach this spell. He struggles because finding a memory bright enough is genuinely difficult for him. His early childhood was joyless and cold.
His happiest moments are recent, provisional, still tinged with the awareness of how easily they could be taken away.
When he finally produces a full corporal Patronus, the stag, which is his father's animagus form, it is not accidental that the memory he uses is bound up in love and connection. The feeling that powers the spell is the same feeling that the night at Godric's Hollow both gave him and permanently denied him, the knowledge of being loved completely and protected by someone willing to die for you. The Patronus is shaped like James Potter. It is fueled by the emotional truth of what Lily Potter did. The magic that protects Harry from despair is in its deeper structure, made from the memory of the night that also nearly destroyed him. The films rarely make this explicit. They don't need to. The image says it, a stag made of light, charging through darkness, James running toward what killed him. The same motion, replayed. Every death hits the same nerve. Watch how Harry responds to death across the entire series, and a pattern emerges that goes beyond ordinary grief. When Cedric Diggory is killed, Harry's first and most desperate action is to bring the body back. He drags Cedric's corpse to the portkey with both hands, refusing to leave him in that graveyard, refusing to let the death go unwitnessed or unclaimed. He arrives back at Hogwarts, holding a dead boy he barely knew, and will not let go of him. When Sirius falls through the veil, Harry's response is not grief first. It is a sprint toward the archway, a full-body lunge toward the place his godfather disappeared, as if presence of mind and physical momentum could reverse what just happened. He has to be physically restrained from following Sirius into death. When Dumbledore dies, Harry freezes, then moves. He goes to the body first, before anything else, before processing the battle still happening around him. Each time, there is the same quality to his response, an urgency that goes beyond the specific loss. Something that looks like a person, not just grieving the person in front of them, but being pulled backward toward the original loss, the one they were too young to process or resist or understand. This is what unprocessed early loss does. Every subsequent loss becomes a re-entry point to the original wound. The grief is never just for the person who just died. It is for all of them, including the ones from the night you were 15 months old and have never been able to properly mourn. Harry is not an unusually emotional person by nature. He is a person whose deepest emotional infrastructure was formed by a loss that he has never once been able to sit inside, to feel the full weight of, to grieve in any way that offered closure. Godric's Hollow and the pilgrimage in Deadly Hallows. Harry and Hermione go to Godric's Hollow. It is, on the surface, a strategic decision. They are looking for the Sword of Gryffindor, for any clue about Dumbledore's past, for something that might move them closer to ending the war. That is the rationale Harry offers Hermione when she questions the timing. But the way Harry moves through that village has nothing to do with strategy. He is drawn. He walks through the snow to his parents' graves, the way someone walks toward the one thing they have been circling their entire life. He finds the stone with James and Lily's names on it, and he kneels, and he cannot speak. The words he wants to say do not exist. There is no language adequate to what this moment is. A 17-year-old boy kneeling in the snow at the graves of the parents he lost before he could know them, in the village where his entire story began, on Christmas Eve, with no one there but a friend who loves him enough to stand in silence. He uses the wreath they bought at the village. He lays it on the grave, because it is the only gesture available to him, the only physical offering that says, I came. I remember. I know what you did. Then he finds the house, still standing, preserved in ruins,
exactly as Voldemort left it 17 years earlier, under a preservation charm that has kept the destruction intact as a memorial. He stands at the gate and looks at the hole in the roof where the killing curse blew out the wall. He looks at the place where everything that matters about him began. This scene is the only time in all 8 films that Harry stands in the actual physical location of his parents' death. He has been carrying that night his entire life, and he has never once been able to stand in the place where it happened until now. The memory that controls everything finally has a location, finally has a ground beneath it. The Resurrection Stone and the conversation he needed. In the final film, Harry opens the golden snitch Dumbledore left him and finds the Resurrection Stone. He uses it once. He turns it in his hand and calls them back, James, Lily, Sirius, Lupin, and they appear in the forest, visible only to him, shadows of the people they were. And what Harry does with this extraordinary magic, this impossible reunion, is not ask for help or information or guidance on how to survive what is coming. He asks if it will hurt. And he asks if they will stay with him as he walks toward his death. These are not the questions of a soldier. They are the questions of a child who has never stopped being the child from Godric's Hollow, the one who lost his parents before he could hold on to them, who has been moving through the world for 17 years with the specific loneliness of someone who was loved completely and then left without the ability to carry the memory of that love forward. Lily tells him she is so proud of him. James tells him that dying is quick. Sirius tells him that it will be all right. And Harry drops the stone and keeps walking, because the thing that was needed has finally been given. Not power, not information, not a plan. Just the knowledge, however briefly and impossibly, that his parents are still with him. That the night at Godric's Hollow did not end in erasure. That what Lily and James Potter did, and who they were, did not stop existing when they died. The memory that controlled everything finally answered him, and the answer was enough to let him go.